My name is James Carter, and I'm 32 years old. I never thought I'd feel like a stranger in my own family. My dad worked hard his whole life to create something meaningful, a legacy for my sister, Olivia, and me. He was my hero, a man who valued family and taught us about trust and honesty. But everything changed after he passed away. Olivia, my only sister, became someone I barely recognized. Growing up, we were close, always there for each other. I thought that bond would never break. But on the day of Dad's funeral, I saw a different side of her, cold and distant, nothing like the sister I knew. A week later, Olivia asked me to meet with Dad's lawyer to discuss the inheritance. I showed up expecting a simple talk about dividing what Dad had left behind. I didn't want much, just enough to remember him by and start fresh. But as soon as I walked into that office, something felt off. Olivia sat across from me, calm and confident. I didn't know what she was planning. The lawyer placed a thick stack of papers in front of me. "James," he said, "Olivia now has complete control over your father's estate." He explained that Dad had signed everything over to her, leaving me with nothing. It felt like a punch in the gut. "That can't be right," I said, looking from the lawyer to Olivia, hoping she'd explain. Olivia barely looked at me. "It's all legal, James. Dad made his decision. You have a week to pack up and move out of the house. After that, it's mine." I couldn't believe it. The family home, the one Dad worked his whole life for, was now hers alone. I had nothing. Stunned, I watched her leave without a word, leaving me to deal with the reality of her betrayal. I was left with no family, no home, and nowhere to go. That night, I packed up my things, feeling a mix of anger and disbelief. How could Olivia do this? The sister I once protected had turned into a stranger, driven by greed. I closed the door behind me, knowing I'd never see that house again, and walked into an uncertain future. But I promised myself one thing: I wouldn't let her betrayal define me. I'd find a way to rebuild my life, no matter what. Starting over was harder than I thought. With only a few dollars, I rented a small, run-down apartment on the edge of town. I worked any job I could find, from waiting tables to stocking shelves, just to survive. Each night, I fell into bed exhausted, my body aching, my mind replaying the betrayal again and again. Losing both my father's legacy and the sister I trusted was a wound that wouldn't heal. But something in me refused to give up. I wanted to prove to myself, and to Olivia, that I was stronger than she thought. I kept working, saving every cent, and after months of hard work, things started to change. I landed a stable job at a mid-sized company. It wasn't fancy, but it was a fresh start, and for the first time in a while, I felt hopeful. That's when I met Stella. She was the head of a large company, known for her sharp business skills and determination. We met at a work event and hit it off right away. Stella was different from anyone I'd ever known, smart, caring, and ambitious. We started dating, and as time passed, I fell in love with her strength and kindness. With Stella, I found a sense of stability and hope I hadn't felt in a long time. A year later, we got married in a small, private ceremony. Olivia didn't come, not that I wanted her there. I thought I had moved on from her betrayal, but life has a funny way of bringing things full circle. Shortly after our wedding, Stella offered me a high-level position in her company, one with responsibility, influence, and a great salary. I was thrilled, not only to work alongside my wife but also to prove to myself that I could succeed on my own terms. One day, while going through employee files at the company, I saw a name that stopped me in my tracks. Olivia Carter. My sister, the same person who had taken everything from me, was working at Stella's company. She had been there for years, working as a middle manager. I couldn't believe it. After all she had done, she was right there, under the same roof, not knowing I now had authority over her. At first, I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to confront her, to demand answers, and maybe even an apology. But another part saw this as a chance to finally make things right, not by talking, but by taking action. So I kept quiet about our connection and just watched her from a distance. I saw how she cut corners and manipulated situations to get ahead, just like she had done to get Dad's inheritance. Months passed, and I quietly gathered information on Olivia's work performance. It didn't take long to see that her ambition led her to make bad choices. Her record was full of complaints, unfinished projects, and signs of dishonesty. And yet, she was close to a promotion that would give her even more power. I was patient, gathering solid proof. I didn't want to rely on rumors. I needed facts. Every missed deadline, every dishonest move, every mistake. She covered up her mistakes, but I documented everything, creating a report that exposed her true behavior. Finally, the day came. I had built a strong case against Olivia. It wasn't just about her recent actions. It showed a pattern of dishonesty, manipulation, and greed. I handed the report to Stella, my wife and strongest supporter, and we went over it together. As she read through the details, her expression grew serious. "I had no idea she was this careless," Stella said, shaking her head. "We can't let this go unnoticed." With her support, we presented the report to the board. Olivia was called into a meeting, completely unaware that I was behind it all. She walked in confidently, the same self-assured person who had taken everything from me years ago. But as the board laid out her actions, unfinished projects, poor decisions that cost the company money, her expression shifted. Olivia tried to defend herself, offering explanations for each accusation, but the evidence was too strong, too clear. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. The cold, calculating look she had worn when she betrayed me was gone, replaced by panic as she realized her career was crumbling around her. I stood silently in the corner, watching her world collapse. I hadn't done this out of hatred. I just wanted justice, the very thing she had denied me when she took everything our father left behind. When the meeting ended, the board informed Olivia that she was fired. She had lost her job, her reputation, and the influence she had worked so hard to build. As she turned to leave, our eyes met. She stopped, her face a mixture of anger and confusion. Did you do this, James?" she whispered, her voice shaky. I met her gaze, calm and steady. "I didn't do anything, Olivia. You did this to yourself. I just made sure people saw the truth." She stood there, stunned, as I turned and walked away, feeling the sense of closure I had waited so long for. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. Olivia was left to face the consequences of her own actions, just as I had to face mine years ago. In the days that followed, life moved on. Olivia's exit barely caused a ripple in the company. Stella and I continued building our lives together, and for the first time, I felt truly free from the weight of my past. Olivia's betrayal no longer haunted me. It was just a chapter, one that had finally closed. I had forged my own path, found my own success, and most importantly, built a family based on trust and love. As for Olivia, I don't know where she ended up. Maybe she learned from her mistakes. Maybe she kept going down the same path. But whatever happened to her, I knew one thing for certain: my life was no longer tied to hers. I had taken back control. I had found happiness.